What is going on with y'all, man? It is Black Balloon, and I'm coming back with another video, so y'all already know what's going on. Alright, y'all. Now, I got a request in the video that I did about Avery Lloyd, or was it Lloyd Avery? I think it was Lloyd Avery. Excuse me, y'all. But, y'all remember that video? We just did that video a couple of days ago. And it was about Boys in the Hood, and we touched on two other actors from the movie that died from Boys in the Hood. And we also touched on the producer of that movie, John Singleton, as well, that died. And there was another guy with the pacifier that I didn't really touch on, but he also died from Boys in the Hood as well. I think he was Dookie in the movie. His name was Dookie in the movie. He also died. I think he died by gun violence. I mean, I told a couple of people that it was by gun violence. I think gang violence, actually. I didn't really find anything, that kind of threw red flags around his death. As we do know, that's very common in those certain places in LA, because it kind of reminds me of that dude from Freedom Writers as well. If I'm not mistaken, that was another case of life imitating art. I think he died. What was it, that he died the same way that he died in Freedom Writers? I can't really remember. I could probably include that in this video. I'm literally thinking of it off the top of my head right now. I can't really remember that. All right, y'all. So real quick, I thought I'd add this to the video. Obviously, this video is not about this guy nor Freedom Writers, but just to have a little more context to what I was talking about. This article, and I always find it funny when they name articles, the way they do this one, says actors' deaths eerily similar to film role. Now, his name was Armand Jones. I wanted to just throw this in here really quick, just to kind of acknowledge it. In the movie, I think they were in a convenience store and he was shot at by gang members, but he survived in the movie. And I think his friend in the movie died, if I'm not mistaken. So it says on March 17, 2006, which I think that was a Thursday that year or Friday, shortly after a celebration at the Bougie nightclub in Anaheim to mark the end of filming of the Freedom Writers, Jones had his own encounter with gang members. He walked into the bathroom at a nearby Denny's restaurant just as a group of Long Beach gang members were robbing two of his friends of jewelry, cell phones, and shoes. According to police reports, they then robbed Jones too, at the point of a gun, before running into the parking lot. He was shot once in the upper torso just as he emerged from the restaurant. He stumbled back inside, according to witnesses, where he collapsed and died. Also, Ronell Spencer, one of Jones's friends who had been celebrating at the Bougie, was shot in the head during a confrontation, but he survived. So it was kind of, that's actually crazy, because it was kind of opposite. Now, the people who did it, they did get arrested and charged with first-degree murder, but in this case of life imitating art, in real life, he died and his friend was shot in the head and survived. And if I'm not mistaken, in Freedom Writers, he survived, but his friend died. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if I saw this. Here it goes. It says, in one scene, rival gang members fired shots at one of Gruelle's students. Now, this is the characters from the movie. A character named Grant Rice, which was Armand Jones, that was his character, in a drive-by as he walked out of the convenience store. The shots missed their intended target, but struck and killed another young man. Bro, literally the complete opposite. In the movie, he survived and his friend died. But in real life, he died and his friend survived. So y'all can't tell me that this is not life imitating art, and it might just be another case of a sacrifice of someone right after filming the movie Freedom Writers. So this goes right back to talking about Roach, because he died just a few months later after finishing up Next Friday. But sorry for not getting to the point. The point of that was that someone requested me to cover all the deaths from Friday. Now, believe it or not, Friday is on a whole nother level. It is actually ridiculous of, how many people have died that played in Friday, which was such a legendary movie to us. definitely across black culture, you know, hood movies, or, whatever you want to classify it as. It's a classic movie. I think it's like one of the last movies that Ice Cube actually wrote, him and DJ Pooh. I think it was directed by Gary. I think that's his name. But it is crazy. It is crazy how many people, like legends, real legends gone from that movie. And, a few of them are just kind of like obvious, because I've touched on it a little bit throughout this channel. I don't think I made a video for anybody, any one person from that movie, like an entire video dedicated to them, because I don't think I did a video that was like about Pops. I think I just mentioned them, AJ Johnson. I don't think I ever dedicated a video to them. So I figured this would be a good Sunday drop to kind of go over all of these deaths and see, what we come up with on how some of these people actually died. So I wanted to start with Roach from Next Friday. Now, he didn't play in the original Friday, which a lot of you are aware of. He was in Next Friday, the second installment of the series. Now, this is Roach right here. Roach got on from being a skater, basically. He was discovered as a skater by some kind of producer. And that's kind of like how he made his way into Hollywood. He eventually ended up moving to Los Angeles, as they all do. And that's how he started to become an actor. Now, it reads, born on March 21st, 1975, Justin Charles Pierce, which was Roach, that was his real name. His breakout performance as Casper in the 1995 movie Kids made him a star overnight. The actor and skateboarder had a tumultuous life as a teenager. After his parents separated when he was 15, he began acting out. Justin dropped out of high school, moved away, and even got arrested for marijuana and heroin possession. It was only when he moved back in with his folks at the age of 19 that things got better for him. After all, it was then that Justin was discovered by controversial photographer Larry Clark while skateboarding in Washington Square Park in New York. This is a picture from Next Friday. Y'all already know. Working in Pinky Shop. Says from there, Justin moved to Los Angeles to further his acting career and landed roles in movies like A Brother's Kiss, Freak Weather, Too Pure, Pigeonholed, and many more. During this period, Justin also married stylist Gina Rizzo in Las Vegas, Nevada. And although everything seemed to be going well for him, this was not the case. After all, on July 10, 2000, while the 25-year-old was in Las Vegas, post the release of his film Next Friday, he hanged himself in his Bellagio hotel room. Justin apparently left 2 suicide notes, but they had never been released to the public. Now, what stood out about this to me the most is the fact that, they mentioned he was arrested for heroin, years before Friday. They mentioned he got married to a stylist, industry relationship in Las Vegas. And then he just so happened to be in Vegas again post-release of the movie Next Friday. And he decided to hang himself out of nowhere July 10th, 2000. Now, Next Friday released early in that year, 2000. I think Next Friday released it was either January 12th or it was February 12th or 11th or something like that. So we're looking at like 5 to 6 months later, he committed suicide in the same city that he got married in. He was 25 years old and he hung himself in a hotel room, and he supposedly left 2 suicide notes that were never released to the public. So automatically I felt that this was a sacrifice. This was somebody else who was, basically used and abused by the industry. He moved to LA. He got a couple of gigs. He got his big gig. And right after his, the biggest role that he would be the most famous for, everybody know Roach from Next Friday. When he sucked Mike Epps' lip with the vacuum cleaner, that part was hilarious. Everybody know Roach from Next Friday. Then 5 to 6 months later, he just ups and hangs himself. And I wonder if he hung himself off a doorknob or off the door. Because if y'all go to my Patreon and check that video out, the 12 doorknob ritual suicides, you'll see why his death was a ritual sacrifice. Now, I tried to upload that video to YouTube, but that got my channel suspended for a week a couple of months ago when I tried to. So that's why that video never made it to YouTube. Now, it is possible that I could rework it and word it a little bit different, but I just never tried because I don't want to risk it. But this death is very similar to others. People that decide to hang themselves in a hotel in Las Vegas or in LA. We can count almost 15 celebrities that hung themselves. But if you go to that video, his death will make a lot more sense. Because they give us no information. I'm not saying this sounds just like what's his name from Disney, Jet Jackson, Lee Thompson Young. Just out of nowhere, he shoots himself in the head. Now, he didn't leave a suicide note, but they saying Justin Roach, he left a suicide note, but they never released it to the public. It's because there isn't a suicide note. They just give you different stories, So his death is the first one that I wanted to visit. Now, I'm not going to take long on reading all the deaths from Friday, but I do want to go over the most important ones, and we'll just kind of go through the others because I don't believe all of them were sacrificed, but there's really the main 3 that I really do want to talk about. So we're going to get into those as well. This video will kind of be a lot of me talking just because there wasn't many clips that I could find to support this video. And if I do find any, as I'm recording this and still working on the video, I'll be sure to add them into it. But for now, we're going to get into the rest of the cast that have died from the movie Friday.
This is the baddest man in the world. Later on, I want y'all to do one with him. I gotta tell everybody.
Oh, that's the time, man.
They said they was gonna do. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Well, if you want to do something with him now, tell the world about this guy.
This is the Mr. Witherspoon. Is the funniest man in the world. Y'all come see the movie because there's a lot of surprises. It's gonna be on. Peace out.
Get a job, kids. That's my theme. Get a job, kids of America. Please get a damn job.
Sounds like you're a father in real life.
Oh yes, get out of the house. Leave the refrigerator alone.
I think he was thinking he was that close to death by any stretch of the imagination.
You mentioned that we would lose John several months ago.
Yeah.
Was it unexpected? You said you were talking to him every week.
He left me a message that I got after the funeral. He had been to Atlanta and I had happened to be home and I picked him up. He liked to come out to my farm. Totally shocked.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. Not only was I shocked, I think he was. I don't think he expected that. I don't think he was thinking he was that close to death by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I did notice him seeming to be a little tired in some cases, and I'm not gonna sell my soul, and I'm not gonna kill myself trying to get $1 billion.
Yeah.
God bless the people that do. That's where you choose to spend your life. I'm not mad.
Yeah. I seen an interview where you mentioned that same particular quote, if I can make a living without selling my soul. You said in 2016 in an interview with the journalist Kat Harvey. That's pretty big in terms of the conversations about selling your soul in Hollywood. Have you kind of witnessed things that you've seen others tend to lose themselves in this game?
I know some people now who would do anything to be famous. I know some people that are in the game that are moderately famous that would do anything to take it up another level. I know some people in Hollywood that are financially comfortable that would do anything to take it up a notch. But no offers came in movie-wise that I thought would be good for me to do, and that I could, I hate to keep bringing it up, that I could tolerate in my soul. Now, I got offered some parts that I said, I can't do that. Even though it's acting, and then it would start messing with your mind. Why would they offer me a part like that so far away? What do you want me to be a woman for when you got black women actresses who are funny in Hollywood, been out there trying to make it, and you want to give me a part like that?
So they try to put you in a dress?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was kind of like, you know, you're going to bite this bullet and then you in. Well, you got the wrong nigga.
Yeah, that's a big conversation with...
I ain't mad at anybody that does it. I'm just telling you about, you interviewing me, right?
Yes, I am.
So,
yeah, it's just a big one. We kind of did a episode on that. Kind of just at a point where we think it's a little played out. Even for the laughter effect of it, it's redundant.
Yeah. I ain't mad at nobody that did it.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I turned down a few of those. I don't know. A few? That may have been, well, maybe I say a few.
Okay.
3 maybe.
That's still a lot.
Yeah.
For them to kind of try to put that on you.
Yeah. And I think that may have been a sign to the establishment that DC wasn't about it. So it may have cost me career-wise. I don't give a damn.
All right, y'all. So I thought it would be cool to add that into this video just to kind of give you an idea that, you know, these people were aware of what goes on in the industry. And I mean every last one of them that have died from the movie Friday, even DC Curry. Now, him and AJ Johnson, they kind of kept it, you know, the most real about everything. Even Pops as well, because John Witherspoon, Pops, he was the one that let it be known that, you know, nobody even made more than $5,000 from the original Friday, which was kind of understandable because, you know, no one knew at that time that that movie would turn into a classic. They didn't know the characters would go and have that far of a reach to the world, basically. They didn't know. So, you know, that's just like anything. You know, when you're starting off, you're not going to get much. And if it just happens to blow the hell up, you know, it just is what it is. You know, terms aren't really going to change. But they all kept it real. You know, Curry, he let you know. And, you know, the reason I put that in there is because him and Pops, John Witherspoon, they were kind of like best friends in a sense. You know, really kept up with each other's lives, you know, ever since the 90s. I just kind of got a vibe that, you know, because he said it was very unexpected that Pops died. And he was like, he didn't even think, you know, he didn't think Pops knew that he was even about to die, you know? And although he said he seemed kind of tired toward his later days before, you know, up to him dying, but I kind of felt that there was, you know, more there that he just didn't necessarily want to say. Although he did talk about the whole dress thing, the dress ritual in the industry, because they tried to put him in a dress over 3 times. And he denied every last one of them, which makes sense because he didn't have much of a career after his roles in next Friday. So you can tell he's telling the truth because he said it might have cost him his career, but he don't give a damn. They got the wrong one, and that's right out of his mouth. But it lets you know, just like he said, he know people that are willing to do anything to become more famous than they are or to become, you know, even more well off financially than they are currently. So he knows the dark rituals that take place in the music industry. So I felt like we had to listen to that because it goes to support all of these deaths from Friday that seem very, you know, it just seems odd, you know, like I know life has an ending date for all of us. I know that. But from one classic movie for this many people to be dead, It just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to go over an article that shows all the pictures of everyone that died. But, Pops, AJ Johnson, and Bernie Mac was the ones that I just really wanted to get into. And although I don't have to spend much time on Bernie Mac because I've already dedicated an entire video to him, which is the biggest video I've ever done that sits right over 1 million views. So we don't have to spend much time on him, but we know that Pops, Bernie Mac, and AJ Johnson are 3 of the biggest deaths off the movie. And of course, you got Tiny Lister as well, Debo. But, like I said, man, I know we have an expiration date, every last one of us. And, when you think about that kind of stuff, life can be kind of scary, because you just never know. But, some of this stuff just seems real ritualistic, and I don't believe it to all be just straight up natural deaths, how they put it. Pops died at 77 years old, and I've said this before on the channel, that when he died, he was starting to do interviews right before he died. He did the Vlad interview a couple months before he died in 2019. And I was just starting to see him more. And I'm not the only one that's saying this, but they started playing Friday like every other week for almost 2 months straight right before John Witherspoon died. And I'm not making that up to prove a point. Other people noticed it as well. And I'm talking about people in the truth community, because I remember when he died, and I remember getting on YouTube and people were like, yo, so that's why they've been playing Friday so much. People literally noticed it. I forget what channel they were playing it on all the time, but it was coming on for I swear it was coming on for 2 months. Every week they were playing Friday. And then next thing you know, a few days later, a few weeks later, John Witherspoon was dead. And the timing of it was not a coincidence. The timing of it was not a coincidence at all. And these are kind of things you have to notice, or if you don't notice this kind of stuff, or if you don't think about it and have anything else to support these kind of coincidences, as they would call them, then it won't make sense to you. You'll just think blah, blah, blah. You just thinking too hard about this shit. But no, when you know how the industry works, this is what they do. And DC Courage is saying the things that he said, it just kind of makes sense even more about Pops. I think his death was a ritual sacrifice. And, when we go to AJ Johnson was done dirty from the beginning because of just the way the industry is, and Ice Cube was already on that kind of stuff. Ice Cube, before Friday even dropped, they originally didn't want AJ Johnson to play Ezell. They tried to get dude off of was it In Living Color? What was his name? It was the dude that had the braids back in the 90s, the comedian. Short dude with the braids. I can't remember his name. I might not even be saying the right show. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. But originally, he was supposed to do it. But his management company, and I think Sony, shut it down. Because he was one of the biggest comedians at that time. So they ended up calling back AJ Johnson after they had already offered to him and then told him that they're not going to work with him. They called AJ Johnson back. Of course, he agreed to do it because he wasn't doing any other work. And boom, that's how AJ Johnson became Ezell, the famous character, which he said in the Vlad interview that he modeled that character after his real brother, who was actually a crackhead. And toward the end, when Friday was in, after Friday had hit and it became such a huge hit, a huge movie, Ice Cube told him that he wished he put Ezell throughout the movie even more because his character became so famous. But then, turn around on next Friday, Ice Cube actually barred AJ Johnson from the set because this is how you could tell Ice Cube was already on all that junk. He was willing to, disregard you. It don't even matter what's going on. If it's for the money or if it's for less money, to pay less money, he'll do whatever he got to do. So the story was that AJ Johnson was supposed to be in next Friday, but they shook on it. They shook on the amount of money that he was going to get. It was never a contract. This is coming from AJ Johnson's mouth. And they started filming the movie without him. When he got word of it, he went to the set, and Ice Cube basically had hired Fredo Starr from Onyx, and he paid him less money than he would have had to pay AJ Johnson. And that was the end of the story. So that was kind of the big three of some of the cast members that have died from the movie Friday. We talked about Bernie Mac, we talked about AJ Johnson, we talked about Pops, John Witherspoon. And now we could kind of move on to this article. It's pretty simple. You know, it just goes into detail about all the actors and actresses that died Friday. Now, one thing I do want to point out about Chris Tucker, and you know, we can't really leave this video without talking about him, is you know, Chris Tucker went on to be the biggest star from Friday. You know, I guess you could say he was already the biggest star on Friday when it comes to actors and comedians. Chris Tucker went on to become a $20 million a movie man. And we already know once you enter into that $20 million club in Hollywood, you have to basically bow down. You have to sell your soul. You don't get to $20 million per movie unless you sell your soul. That's why Chris Tucker was basically put in a dress, you know, and I forget what that movie was called. That movie with Bruce Willis, where he was, you know, basically dressed up as a man girl. You know, I don't even know what you want to call him in that movie, but it was very like, you know, it was very like a very flamboyant character. You know, it's almost the same as putting on a dress. You know, y'all let me know what the name of that movie was in the comments. It's just it's not popping up in my head right now. But, you know, Chris Tucker went on to do things that nobody else from Friday did. You know, as far as how it just shot him straight up to the top of Hollywood immediately. He started working with Jackie Chan. He literally made $20 million a movie with Rush Hour. Instantly, it shot him up into the Hollywood world. And we all know what Chris Tucker, you know, and before I say that, that's why he didn't come back to Friday. You know, he gave it more after he seen the things that he saw in Hollywood. He started to come out and say, you know, he got into the church, so on and so on, because I'm sure once he, you know, he made that first 20 million and then he started getting invited to things and start having to do things. And he went over there to that island that we all know about, which I'm not going to say too much about that just so this video doesn't get flagged, but y'all know what I'm talking about because he was on that list. You know, he turned to God more. He turned to the church. He came back to Atlanta. He started going to the church again because it scared him. I'm pretty sure it scared him. So that was one of the reasons why Chris Tucker ain't even really been on the big screen until the movie that he just did called Air. The one with Viola Davis and all them dudes about Jordan. So we already know, you know, the things that he probably saw and had to do, it scared him straight to a point, you know? That's why Chris Tucker never really did anything after Money Talks and the Rush Hour series and all that other good stuff. You know, we could just only imagine that. So I kind of had to use this time to talk about Chris Tucker because, you know, I think he got involved in the industry the deepest outside of Ice Cube. You know, Ice Cube, I mean, you could kind of say Ice Cube was in deep, but I think Chris Tucker was invited and got around even more things than what Ice Cube did. Ice Cube just had the upper hand in the beginning. But, you know, after Chris Tucker blew up, it took him to a whole nother level, you know? So that's just my beliefs on it. And as far as him being a part of that whole thing with the island, you know, it just kind of lets you know what he was getting into or the things that he might have been invited to, you know, just to say that. I'm not going to make this video too much longer from here because like I said, I really wanted to touch on like the main three and talk about a little bit about Chris Tucker as well. But as y'all can see, you know, we already talked about Bernie Mac. Tiny Lister did die as well. Most of these official narratives of how they died had to do with sickness. I think AJ Johnson was, you know, supposedly suffering from some kind of autoimmune disease. and I think he had a form of cancer. I think he also may have had a heart attack about 10 years ago as well, 10 years from the day that he died. So far we have Bernie Mac, Pops, AJ Johnson, Tiny Lister. That's 4 already, and they're all legends. They're all like, roles that you can, from that movie you could think about today. You could recite it today because it was just, it was that funny. You'll never forget Debo and that bike squeaking coming down the hood. You'll never forget that. You'll never forget Ezel. You'll never forget Bernie Mac. It's just impossible. It's impossible to forget those guys. You know what I'm saying? You never forget Pops. You never will. Also, this lady right here, LaWanda Page, she died as well. We already talked about Pops. We already talked about AJ Johnson. Just scrolling down, y'all. Also, Ronaldo Ray, he died from the movie Friday as well. He was also a stand-up comedian. Yvette Wilson, she died as well, the one that played Smokey, telling him that she looked like Janet Jackson, so on and so on. She also died. She also, she was on Moesha as well. And it's crazy. So it looks like she died from kidney issues, and she was waiting on a kidney transplant, and she wasn't able to get the money up to get it before she died. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that pretty much wraps up everybody that died from Friday. It was Yvette, Ronaldo Ray, AJ Johnson once again, Pops, Debo, Bernie Mac. It's crazy, man. It's just crazy. I think Friday is probably one of, I don't know, I think that might be the most people that's ever died from one movie, and we already talked about Roach at the beginning of this video. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Without even talking about anything else, that has to do with all this Hollywood stuff. It's just crazy all these people gone, bro. It just goes to show you, life just keep going, man. It just keeps moving on. And if we want to relate this to anything in, our normal lives of everyday happenings or things that we do every day, shoot, if it's something you want to do, just do it. Have more fun, live more. And if you've been missing it lately, just bring that joy back into your life. Try to bring it back, because besides anything, we're supposed to live. We're supposed to have fun. We're supposed to do things to enjoy life, smile more, laugh more, live. If it's something you want to go do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want a new place, you want a new car, if it's little small stuff, go do it. Go try to do it, because we only got one life to live. So let's just live it the best way that we can, and give thanks to God at the end of the day, man. So y'all already know what's going on. I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Try not to talk too much, make this video go on any longer than it has to be, man. But we got more content on the way. As I said before, I got a lot of stuff I'm working on, a lot of videos coming out in the near future. Really appreciate y'all support as always. Let me know what y'all want to see next time. And with that being said, it's Black Balloon, and I'm going to see y'all soon. I'm out.